Let us receive our brothers, the student minister, Dr. Wesley Muhammad of the Shura Council.
Thank you, beloved.
Come on, brothers and sisters, we can do better than that. All praise is due to Allah, not some of the praise.
In the most holy name of Allah, who came in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, to whom all holy praises are forever due. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah. And I bear witness that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is his living and exalted Christ. Further bear witness that the Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan is their divine reminder, the apostle of God in our midst. And now we can proudly declare to the world the Jesus of whom the world has been awaiting and looking for the last 2,000 years.
Yes, sir.
In their names, I greet you, at least Rochester. Any other cities in the house tonight? Buffalo. I greet you in the greeting words of peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sir.
I'm honored to be in Rochester. I'm honored to be here this evening, and I'm humbled by your presence here.
Yes.
This is an important subject, and I am thankful that you agree such that you would join us tonight to discuss such a subject, the untold story of the Nation of Islam, and Minister Malcolm X to Student Minister Kenneth Muhammad, the local representative here in Rochester. Thank you for the invitation to come to your city and allow willing unpack such a weighty subject as this. Last weekend, the centennial anniversary of Malcolm X was celebrated across the country. At the West Las Vegas Library, we were honored to be invited to participate, along with Abdurrahman Muhammad, the narrator of Netflix's popular docuseries, Who Killed Malcolm X? How many in here have watched the Netflix series, Who Killed Malcolm X? Abdurrahman Muhammad, the narrator of that docuseries, and myself, we were both invited to participate in a conversation about the life and an exploration of the death of Malcolm X, El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz. Far too often, conversations about Malcolm X are had, and we, the Nation of Islam, are center stage with Malcolm in these conversations, usually as the great villain. Yet the Nation of Islam is rarely ever invited to participate in these conversations. There is an understandable need to talk about us, but there seems to be little appetite to talk with us, to get an honest perspective on what is arguably one of the most tragic set of circumstances in the history of Black people's sojourn in America.
Yes, sir.
The wounds are still sore, and the answers to important questions that the community wants and needs.
Yes, sir.
I submit, family, excluding the Nation of Islam from these discussions handicaps the process of enlightenment,
Yes, sir.
of getting adequate answers
Go ahead.
to those questions. Malcolm X was a Muslim. and a representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad within the Nation of Islam for 12 years. He was separated from the nation for 350 days, 2 weeks shy of a full year. A portion of that time he spent seeking to return to the Nation of Islam. We'll get to that in a moment, Allah willing. So the Malcolm X story never really ceased being a Nation of Islam story. Good, the bad, and the ugly. Tonight, I would like to highlight some important moments in the history of Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam. Moments that in the popular narrative are either misunderstood, misrepresented, or omitted from the narrative altogether. I have indicted the popular Malcolm X narrative as being in large measure a false narrative.
Yes, sir.
And family, you should have little difficulty, you in the Malcolm X community in particular, you should have little difficulty appreciating the bogusness of the popular Malcolm X narrative, for it is this narrative that supported and gave justification for the 1999 introduction by the United States Postal Service of the El Hajj Malik El Shabazz commemorative stamp. With this move, Malcolm X joined Babe Ruth, George Washington, and Thomas Jefferson in the pantheon of American heroes. But in order to achieve this ascension, the Black revolutionary Malcolm X had to be purged and transformed into a domesticated, non-threatening American icon who allegedly fought for civil rights and integration. The Malcolm X that Black people love would be turning in his grave. And a Malcolm X narrative that supports this transmogrification of him into an American icon is a narrative that has betrayed Malcolm X. We honor him not by regurgitating the treacherous narrative in which he has been imprisoned, he and his legacy. We honor him better by sharing some truth that can help free him and free his legacy from the confines of that treacherous narrative. I and others have expended considerable energy deconstructing the Malcolm X false narrative, which hinges on 4 dramatic acts. Act 1, disillusionment. Malcolm X allegedly found out things about his teacher and benefactor of 12 years, and what he found out so disillusioned him he could no longer have faith in or follow his teacher, resulting in Act 2, his departure from the Nation of Islam, now suffering a spiritual crisis, unable to recognize any longer the divinity of his teacher, the righteousness of his teacher. He had no other choice but to depart from the Nation of Islam. His departure followed by an epiphany on the road to Mecca during Hajj in April 1964. Malcolm X, now free from the straitjacket of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm X in Mecca has an epiphany. The scales fall from his eyes and he sees what he never knew before. White Muslims whose skin were the whitest of white, whose eyes were the bluest of blue, whose hair was the blondest of blonde. And Malcolm now has encountered true Islam. This epiphany leading to Act 4, fratricidal murder. His former colleagues, his former members of the FOI cannot countenance Malcolm's evolution, his growth beyond the parochialism of what the Nation of Islam had, and no longer able to stomach it. They committed the gruesome crime of murdering Malcolm on February 22nd, 1965, in front of his pregnant wife and daughters.
Yes, sir.
This is the popular narrative of Malcolm X.
Yes, sir.
It is a false narrative.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But it is this false narrative that is the main reason that many of you, family, you remain estranged from your Nation of Islam.
Come on, brother. Come on.
You admire the nation. You love the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan because his love for black people resonates with your very soul.
Come on, brother. Yes, sir.
But you won't join your Nation of Islam because you cannot get past what you have been made to believe is a fact.
Come on.
That the Nation of Islam killed Malcolm X. All because he allegedly evolved beyond the nation after he allegedly became disillusioned in the righteousness of his teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But again, this is the false narrative of Malcolm X.
Yes, sir.
The pillars, the four pillars of this narrative are necessary. They support the Malcolm X that was exalted to American icon status. If you were more acquainted with the truth of Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam, if you could peer behind the veil of the false narrative of Malcolm X, you would not be running from the Nation of Islam. You would be following Malcolm X back to the Nation of Islam. Of course, in the time that we have, we can touch on only a few points this evening, and Allah willing, open it up that you may question, that you may challenge, that you may interrogate as you see fit what we put on the table this evening, because it is my desire that we all leave with perfect clarity regarding the true relationship between Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam, that we have perfect comprehension of the untold story.
Yes, sir.
Because we can only touch on a few points tonight. There are three questions that we would like to shed light on. For the answers that are generally offered to these questions have been wrong and mischief making.
Come on.
One, why was Malcolm X sat down by his teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad,
Yes, sir.
in December 1963? Two, why did Malcolm X leave the Nation of Islam in March 1964? Three, who killed Malcolm X in February 1965? Question number one. Why did the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, thank you, if you don't mind, though I greatly appreciate that, I'm gonna do this, if that is okay. There's much mischief making regarding this point. Was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad jealous of his fiery minister Malcolm X, his eloquence, his setting the country on fire? Jealous such that he felt he needed to muzzle his student? Did the Honorable Elijah Muhammad sit his student down because his student found something out that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did not appreciate? So we conspired to, in the words of Zach Kondo, he decided to take Malcolm down. Is this what happened in December 1963? No, it is not. So what happened and why? On November 22nd, 1963, at around 12:30 Central Time, President John F. Kennedy was executed in Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas. That was a Friday. Every Friday evening, the Nation of Islam held and holds meetings,
Yes, sir.
regular scheduled meetings. On this Friday, November 22nd, 1963, a meeting started at 8 o'clock, and Malcolm X, the minister of Temple Number 7 in New York, promptly and punctually began our meeting and was teaching at the rostrum when a call came from headquarters from Chicago.
Yes, sir.
The call was from the Assistant Supreme Captain of the Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad Jr., the son of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
Malcolm's local captain, Captain Joseph, received the call as Malcolm was on the rostrum teaching. The Assistant Supreme Captain instructed Captain Joseph to go retrieve Malcolm from the rostrum. I have a message from my father to him. Captain Joseph proceeds to follow his instruction and whispers in Malcolm's ear that headquarters is on the phone, and Malcolm's response was, "Did you tell them I was teaching?" They had anticipated that reply from Malcolm, so they had already sent Captain Joseph with the response to Malcolm. So Captain Joseph said from Assistant Supreme Elijah Muhammad Jr., quote, "It's 8 o'clock. We start mosque meeting at 8 o'clock, not a minute before, not a minute after. So we already know that you're teaching, Minister Malcolm. We still want to talk to you. A message from my father." Malcolm reluctantly dismounted the rostrum and took the call, instructing his captain, Captain Joseph, to get on the other end. The message that Elijah Jr. communicated from his father, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, to Malcolm X was thus, quote, "Brother Minister Malcolm, my father told me to tell you, we're calling all over the country that John F. Kennedy was assassinated and that we should not say anything in a derogatory way whatsoever because the man was the president of the United States and that people love him and he has influence. And if we say something other than what we're supposed to say, then it will cause my followers to start getting killed in the streets. And I don't want that. So I'm calling you in advance, Brother Minister Malcolm, letting you know, do not say anything." Now, similar calls were placed to major ministers around the country. And after a mosque meeting that Friday night, mosques across the country had hold back meetings. And every Muslim was given that same instruction, but Minister Malcolm was the first one to receive that instruction directly from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad through his son and Assistant Supreme Captain Elijah Jr. John F. Kennedy was a beloved president. He was charismatic. He was young. He captivated white people.
Yeah, he did.
In 1963, the Nation of Islam was still dealing with the fallout of the 1959 airing of The Hate That Hate Produced, a television series done by Mike Wallace and Louis Lomax, a series that made the Nation of Islam the boogeyman in the American imaginary.
That's right. Yes, sir.
So with white America's beloved president shot down execution style in the streets of Dallas, Texas, the last thing the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wanted was to expose his followers that are on the streets pushing the program, that are in prison under
Come on. Yes, sir.
Roman Catholic
Yes, sir.
correctional officer.
Yes, sir. Come on.
The last thing he wanted was to make his followers vulnerable to the wrath, the emoting of a wounded white American population. So he sent out instructions to all of the nation. Don't say anything. But he first sent that instruction to his most popular minister.
Yes, sir. Uh-huh. Yes, sir.
Minister Malcolm X. Instead of saying, as we in the Nation of Islam are trained to say upon receiving instruction from a higher command.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
As Malcolm, as minister of New York,
Yes, sir.
the head of that chain of command in New York,
Yes, sir.
he was used to and only accepted. Yes, sir.
That's right. Come on.
To his command. But Malcolm struggled. So after receiving this instruction, he said to the assistant supreme captain, what should I say about the assassination if asked? The reply was, quote, my father said that we should say that we are sorry about the death of our president. And we are. We don't mock white death. We don't mock any death.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's how we as Muslims are trained. Every death is a lesson for us, and the death of the enemy is not a cause for us to rejoice.
Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on.
We are civilized people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What should I say? So we are sorry about the death of our president, according to Captain Joseph.
Yes, sir.
After Malcolm X hung up the phone, he turned to his captain and said, how can I say that? See, Malcolm had been
Yes, sir.
beating up President Kennedy in the media. Rightly so.
Yes, sir.
Malcolm X eloquently
Yes.
and masterfully
Uh-huh.
called out President Kennedy's hypocrisy.
Right. Yes.
So now he's given an instruction that he could not reconcile with what he has been doing in the public. So he struggled. He said to his captain, how can I say that? And his captain dutifully said to him, this is our instruction.
Uh-huh.
Captain Joseph said, or Malcolm said to Captain Joseph, well, you just don't understand. From this point on, Malcolm's problems began.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Malcolm,
Mm-hmm.
as a chief executive in New York, he taught discipline.
Yes. Right.
He enforced discipline.
Yes, sir.
He expected the men to respond to the discipline that he didn't bring to the nation. He met and benefited when he came in the nation. So be clear, some of us
Uh-huh. Yeah.
think we should give Malcolm a pass. But you are energized, you are excited when you saw on the big screen in the movie X, when Johnston Hinton was beat up by New York police. You remember the scene?
Yes, sir.
And Malcolm X, as minister of New York, he led the men to the police station and the hospital. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
And then Spike Lee depicted the scene of the men behind Malcolm.
Yes, sir.
And Malcolm in the movie gives some hand signal.
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead. That's right.
And the men move out, and the white police officer says what? That's too much power for one man to have, but that one man didn't have that power. This is what you need to understand. The men moved out not because of Malcolm X. The men moved out because of the structure of the Nation of Islam. Malcolm didn't have that power. You take Malcolm out and put someone else in, the effect would have been the same. That's the structure of the Nation of Islam. The structure moved the men, not Malcolm.
Yes, sir.
That's our structure. You like it, you love it. We like it, we love it.
Yes, sir. Come on.
We are empowered by it until we fall victim to it.
Come on. Yes, sir.
And all of us who have been in this culture, in the nation, for any matter of time,
Yes, sir.
the structure grows us. The structure benefits us. But if you've been in this in any measure of time, you're going to fall victim to the structure. Because the structure ain't no respecter of person. In Negro culture, y'all are respecter of person. But not in the Nation of Islam. Ain't nobody above this structure.
That's right. Go ahead.
So Malcolm in New York, he enforced the structure. He was a very stern disciplinarian. He told his wife, Sister Betty, if I hear you say that again, I'll put you out the mosque. But when it was his time to respond to discipline, he did not respond as he should. So the Nation of Islam had invested in an appearance of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in New York at the Manhattan Center. Was scheduled for December 3rd. Given the state of the country, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad thought it best to cancel the event, not trigger the wounded beast.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because it is not that we are taught to tell truth regardless of whom or what. So we must tell truth if put in a situation. We're not going to lie. So it's best not put yourself in a situation to have to say anything at all.
Come on.
So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was going to cancel his appearance at the Manhattan Center, but Minister Malcolm appealed to him. that we in New York, we had invested already so much. Can I go in your stead, dear holy apostle?
Think about it.
The messenger consented. Said, but remember, Malcolm, say nothing of the death of the president.
Yes, sir.
Malcolm delivered a wonderful lecture from his prepared words. And he got through the lecture problem free, but before he started, he committed an error because that was an all-black audience at the Manhattan Center. The press were excluded from the event. But there was a particular reporter that Malcolm fancied for whatever reason. And I can't tell you the reason, because I don't know it. But he fancied M.S. Handler of the New York Times, and when Captain Joseph barred all the press from entering the Manhattan Center, Malcolm found out and got upset.
Come on now.
And he forced his captain to go retrieve
Come on.
M.S. Handler
Come on.
and another reporter. He did as he was told. So M.S. Handler and the New York Times were on deck. When Malcolm opened the event up for question and answer, which is something Malcolm didn't do in the past.
Yes, sir.
And so now, opening the conversation up, the inevitable occurred. Malcolm got the question, what say you, Minister Malcolm, of the assassination of President Kennedy? What was Malcolm's duty? No comment. None of us are in disagreement with that, are we? Anything other than no comment is blatant insubordination. And he knew it because instead of saying no comment, and as a preamble to the comment he's about to give, he starts with, I know I'm going to get in trouble for this.
Wow.
And then he proceeds to give his answer. And most of you don't know his answer. You think his answer was a simple, truthful statement of, well, the president's assassination is a case of the chickens coming home to roost. And you say, why the Muslims all got their boxes all in the bunch? Because Malcolm said it's a case of the chickens coming home to roost. That's true. Why sit your number one minister down for speaking such truth? Well, not only was it a blatant violation of an instruction, but also he didn't end his comment there. He didn't end his remarks as a simple state of political analysis. In fact, he said, well, it's a case of the chickens coming home to roost. And me being a farm boy myself, I'm never sad when chickens come home to roost. In fact, I'm glad when chickens come home to roost. So it went out. M.S. Handler blasted the headline in the New York Times. Number 2 of the black Muslim is happy at the death of the president. Malcolm can't accuse them of twisting his words. He gave them that in violation of direct instruction from his higher command, the highest command in the Nation of Islam. And dear family, you cannot excuse Malcolm. It doesn't matter what your culture says and does. Don't judge us by how it's done in Negro culture, because Malcolm wasn't a member of your Negro culture. Y'all want to give them a pass, and Negroes give each other passes for committing the most egregious of crimes. So no snitching, huh?
Yes, sir, minister. Go ahead, Doc. Yes, sir. Come on, man. Come on.
That ain't our culture. Malcolm's comment. Not only was it a paramount example of insubordination, it put Muslims at great risk, because he did justify the headlines Muslims exalt in the death of the president. So on December 4th, the highest command in the Nation of Islam, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he had to discipline his student. The discipline was for the violation, the insubordination, but the discipline was also to cover Malcolm, to protect Malcolm.
Yes, sir. Think about it.
Because Malcolm is the one whose face is all over the press with the headlines, happy over the death of our president. So he was a target. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad made the wise, careful decision to discipline Malcolm, but discipline him in a particular way
Yes, sir.
that Malcolm should have been able to endure.
Yes, right.
Malcolm's discipline for his violation of our law was what's called in the Nation of Islam sea time. Malcolm got sea time on December 4th. What this sea time represented, got sea time for 90 days. This means this is a probationary period for Malcolm.
Yes, sir.
When you're on sea time as a laborer, for example, you're not put out of the mosque. You can still come to the mosque. You can still be among the believers. But if you are a laborer, you're an official, you don't hold that post during the time you're on sea time. In the case of Malcolm, Malcolm was the minister of number 7. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the terms of his sea time were he can still administrate the mosque. As an executive officer, he remained as the executive officer of the mosque, but he could not mount the rostrum. He could do no speaking in the mosque or out of the mosque. He could make no public statements. He could not talk to the press. For 90 days, if Malcolm adhered to the terms of his discipline,
Yes, sir. Come on.
Malcolm would have returned to his post
Come on.
by March 4th,
Come on now.
when his 90 days were up. I don't know. Let me be very transparent. I can't say I know why Malcolm did that. He and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had such an admirable, even to many enviable, father-son relationship.
Yes, sir.
Those two men loved each other. With the deep dive that I have done on the Malcolm X tragic affair, do I have an answer for why he so publicly, blatantly violated the instruction from his father? I cannot say I know what was in Malcolm's heart and mind. I know what you think you know, though. You think that Malcolm did that because he had already fallen into disillusionment. That Malcolm had known about the domestic life of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and it hurt Malcolm, and Malcolm is no longer in this heart of hearts. He wasn't messing with the messenger no more. He found out his messenger wasn't true to what he had believed, and so he had already started to distance himself from his messenger. That's what you think, isn't it? Because that's what the false narrative would have you believe, but that is wrong. Demonstrably, provably wrong. Let me say this. Minister Malcolm X did not have a problem with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taking wives. I know. You're having trouble right now. Be patient with your brother. We're going to surgically disentangle this thing, Allah willing. And it has to be done surgically because the spider web is an intricate organism. The spider spins a very intricate web of deception, and to extract us from it, we got to do it carefully.
Go ahead, Doctor.
So I'm going to say it again, and you can quote me on it. By December 1963, Malcolm was well aware of the domestic life of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the true nature of the domestic life of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and Malcolm X was not troubled with the domestic life of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. How, Sway? How you say that? Brother Wesley? The Nation of Islam, from that day to this day,
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
we have a particular theology. Christians, it's not your theology necessarily, so you may not agree with it. Muslims from the Orthodox Muslim community, it's not your theology, so you may not agree with it. I'm not going to argue theology tonight. I want to have something to say tomorrow, though. Come out. But right now, I want to make the point. It doesn't matter that what we believe isn't what you believe. What's important to this discussion is what we believe, and in particular, what Malcolm X believed.
Yes, sir. Uh-huh.
And a particular theological point of our teacher, that Minister Malcolm X was the champion of in teaching, is this.
Yes, sir.
We in the Nation of Islam understand the Bible and the Holy Quran to be only minimally books of history.
Right. Right.
That is to say, only 25% of what you and I read in the Bible.
Yes, sir.
For example, about this man, Jesus Christ.
Yes, sir.
Only 25% of what we read in the Bible about Jesus is a historical record.
Yes, sir.
The remaining 75% of what we read in the Bible about Jesus is not history when it was written. It was written as prophecy,
That's right.
as a future record
Come on.
of a man who will emerge in a later time. That's what prophecy is versus history. Likewise,
Yes, sir.
it is our teaching now and then, and no one taught it better
Yes, sir.
than Minister Malcolm X.
Yes, sir.
And a dear Muslim family don't like it, but we won't have that theological argument tonight. Minister Malcolm X strongly, eloquently taught this aspect of our teaching, that the Muhammad that we encounter in the Holy Quran,
Yes, sir.
only 25% of it refers to the man born in the holy city of Mecca 1400 years ago.
Yes, sir.
75% of what's in the Quran about or under the name Muhammad refers to the future Muhammad. It was prophecy that pointed to the circumstances and the work of a future messenger of God. And Malcolm X taught that the fulfillment of the prophecy of Muhammad in the Quran
Yes, sir.
was his teacher, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. This is critically important. You don't have to agree, but you got to understand it if you are going to understand Malcolm X
Yes, sir.
in the Nation of Islam
Come on.
and what transpired.
Yes, sir.
Listen to what Malcolm's blood brother,
Uh-huh.
Filbert X. Little, who would become Abdul Aziz Omar. You hear us, or in old video clips of Muslims, you hear Muslims refer to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as dear holy apostle.
Yes, sir.
Do you know why Muslims refer to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as dear holy apostle? Do you know who started that and why?
Come on now. Come on. Yes,
Listen
sir.
to what Filbert X. Little, Malcolm X's blood brother,
Yes, sir.
says in a 1992 interview. I believe it's 1992. He said this: as Malcolm began to teach and get more and more power, he began to tell us that Elijah Muhammad was a holy man. This is what Malcolm is teaching the people.
Yes, sir.
As he's growing in his ministry and his understanding. His brother Filbert, or Abdul Aziz Omar, says,
Yes, sir.
he began to tell us that Elijah Muhammad was a holy man, and that Elijah Muhammad was the one that was prophesied to come, and that he was the fulfillment of the prophet Muhammad that we read about.
Yes, sir.
This is what Malcolm is teaching the people. He says, and that Filbert relaying what his brother Malcolm is teaching the people, and that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the man of God, and that he was the doorway for the rest of us. Malcolm emphasized these things, and that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was holy. So we started calling him Holy Apostle at Malcolm's teaching.
Yes, sir.
Understand what just happened.
Yes, sir.
Malcolm X not only understood, but was at the time the most effective teacher in helping Muslims to understand that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the fulfillment of the Muhammad of the Quran.
Yes, sir.
And because Malcolm understood the most honorable Elijah Muhammad to be the true Muhammad of the Quran, he understood him to be holy, and and after him the Muslims,
Yes.
on that wise and for that reason, started calling Muhammad, the true Muhammad, dear holy apostle. Now, why is this important
Come on, minister.
for this discussion? The Muhammad of the Quran, whom the most honorable Elijah Muhammad fulfilled, that Muhammad, on the instruction of his God Allah, took 9 wives. And this is how Malcolm X understood the most honorable Elijah Muhammad's domestic life. He understood it to be in fulfillment of what is written of Muhammad. Muhammad was always going to take 9 wives. Don't get all holier than thou on us,
Come on, minister.
Christians,
Uh-oh.
because far be it from any Muslims to get self-righteous on us.
That's correct.
Because not only do Muslims accept Muhammad having 9 wives, they just restrict that to the Muhammad of 1400 years ago. But we understood that that was a prophecy of the Muhammad of 1400 years later. But dear Christian family,
Yes, sir.
every prophet in your scripture had wives from among a believing community. That has always been a privilege and a prerogative of the prophets of God. How you catch feelings with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? He is the messenger of God. The fulfillment of all of them. And Malcolm knew this. Malcolm was expert at teaching this. The argument that Malcolm X left the Nation of Islam and left his teacher and benefactor of 12 years because he discovered that his teacher and benefactor had a domestic life that mirrored that of the Arabian prophet Muhammad is not convincing.
That's right.
Malcolm X was aware of the Islamic nature of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's relationship and these women and the proper context in which to understand the relationship. But you say, wait. I'm still having difficulty, Brother Dr. Wesley, because all of that sounds very good and persuasive, and I would be convinced, except I heard Malcolm say, with microphones all in his face, surrounded by the press, I heard him say, well, the black Muslims, they want to quiet me because they know I will tell the secret. And the secret is that Elijah Muhammad took girlfriends from the young secretaries. So your only context for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's domestic life is something dirty. That this old man and went down on young secretaries. And you got that from Malcolm. You heard him. I heard him. Then what you talking about, Brother Dr. Wesley? God is in the details, and truth resides in nuance. You know when and where Malcolm made that statement? That statement was made by Malcolm X on July 16, 1964, outside the Queens County Courthouse. He had just emerged from the eviction trial that was taking place July 15th and 16th. The eviction trial that, because as a representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the Nation of Islam, Malcolm X was permitted to live in, he and his family to live in Nation of Islam property. I think it's called parsonage. And so long as he's a member in good standing, he can reside in Nation of Islam property. But when Malcolm X left the nation, and we will get to the departure, regardless of the circumstance, once he publicly declared he's leaving the Nation of Islam, he is no longer entitled to the benefits of membership. Right. So when he left the nation sued to get our property back. Now, full disclosure, in the Malcolm X false narrative, and starting with Malcolm X himself, if the Nation of Islam is the great villain in this narrative, the great villain in the narrative are the Chicago national officials. Now, full disclosure, I am a Chicago national official. So I have a perspective.
Yes, sir.
I know the culture. I know the politics.
Come on now.
I'm also an academic trained in the historical critical study of religion and religious texts. I got my doctorate in Islamic studies. I taught African American Islam and the history of Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam. I taught it at Division I universities in this country. So I got an insider and an outsider perspective on the matter. But all of us who are blessed to live in Nation of Islam property, and I'm thankful, me and my family are so blessed. And I'm very aware that if you hear Brother Wesley on the news tomorrow declaring my independence from the Nation of Islam, if I convert to Catholicism, well, they're going to have to put me and my family up. They're going to have to find me and my family someplace to live. Because the Nation of Islam ain't going to host me and my hypocrisy. So, when he declared his independence from the Nation of Islam, we send him notice to vacate the premises. He's no longer entitled to the benefits of membership. That hurt Malcolm because his family didn't have any place to go. So he resisted. We sued. And the trial was the Queens County eviction trial of July 15, 16, 1964. Now, outside the courthouse is when Malcolm X made those salacious remarks to the public. But what most of you don't know is what Malcolm said under oath in the courtroom before he came out and courted the court of public opinion.
Yes, sir.
He mounted the witness stand. And his testimony under oath is available, the transcript. And this is what Malcolm X said under oath. He said, quote, "The Honorable Elijah Muhammad is a divine man." Not was, not, I used to think that he was divine. He didn't say that. He says, quote, under oath, on the witness stand, "The Honorable Elijah Muhammad is a divine man. He always follows the divine religious procedure, even in his private affairs." Now that's my insert, but we're going to get to Malcolm. We're going to go back to Malcolm. He always follows the divine religious procedure, Malcolm says under oath. He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is a stickler. It has always been his policy never to handle a person in a way that a person could accuse him of an injustice. Malcolm goes on to say, they, the officials of Chicago, poisoned the Muslim body to keep them from me. This was his perspective. He says, I said, Malcolm talking, I said I would have kept the whole thing secret and private if they would have given me a hearing. They would rather take it to the public court than keep it private among the Muslims simply because I told Joseph that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had taken on 9 wives. Little secretaries? No, 9 wives. Malcolm says, under oath, I had told members of my mosque that Elijah Muhammad was living with 9 wives and 6 children by these wives. But I've since found out it was 7 wives and 10 children. Wives. Malcolm knew the righteous nature of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's domestic life. They were wives of his. To think that Malcolm X, knowing his teacher is a fulfillment of the Muhammad of the Quran, and has a domestic life that mirrors that of the Muhammad of the Quran. He had 9 wives. To think that that will hurt him and disillusion him such that he will leave and embrace the Arab Muslims, sheikhs and rulers who he rubbed elbows with, who he praised, and they had tens of wives and hundreds of concubines. Have you no sense at all? Where's the math in that? There is no math in that.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Dr. West. Right?
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad's taking on 9 wives, which Malcolm knew and understood that situation to be.
Come on.
That did not disillusion Malcolm. Now, was there an aspect of it that hurt Malcolm? There was. It wasn't because his teacher took on 9 wives. He understood that is part of the duty of Muhammad that he fulfilled. Malcolm understood that well.
Yes. Come on.
2 of them did hurt Malcolm. It did. I'm not going to get into that right now. But Malcolm himself had considered 2 of them to be a wife when he decided to take a wife himself.
Yes, sir.
And to find out from an angry and bitter Wallace Muhammad, son of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who did not believe in the God of his father.
Yes, sir.
And was constantly being put out of the nation by his father as a result. To hear from him, Malcolm hear from him that these 2 particular sisters had become a wife of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That did hurt Malcolm. But I believe Malcolm could have survived that. Maybe my belief is wrong, but the course of events that follow, they are what they are. But he was not disillusioned because his father, because his teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, fulfilled that final piece of the prophecy of Muhammad. He had expected it, and when he encountered it, he understood it well. So what happens? He violates the instruction. December 4th, he's given 90 days seat time. What time is it? Y'all all right?
Yes, sir.
It's given 90 days seat time. The terms of which were you administrate the mosque, but you remain quiet. You can mount no rostrum, yours or anywhere else's. You can make no public statements at all. Don't talk to the press. But talking to the press proved to be Minister Malcolm's Achilles heel.
Yes. Yes.
I just have to be candid.
Yes, sir.
Because Malcolm continued talking to the press.
Yes.
When the news went out,
Yes, sir.
Malcolm X is sat down. His office in New York were blasted with calls from the press. Malcolm, were you suspended? Yes, I was. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad is a righteous man. He didn't suspend me because of my remarks, because he told me himself that he would have said the exact same thing. He said, I was suspended because I violated the law. I should have kept my big mouth shut. Now, all of that is true, but all of that is a violation
Yes, sir.
of the terms of his probation. He consistently kept taking calls from the press and talking to the press. And so, of course, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is watching. Malcolm, to put his continued insubordination in context, Malcolm X said to Peter Goldman, quote, it's hard to make a rooster stop crowing once the sun has risen. He couldn't stop crowing. So whenever a microphone was put in his face, he would respond. So of course, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is watching his student. And it all comes to a head.
Yes, sir.
January 2nd, 1964. This is the part that most don't know.
Yes, sir.
Malcolm said in court, if they would have just given me a hearing, Malcolm had a hearing. It was a very disingenuous remark.
Yes, sir.
Malcolm would publicly claim that he deserved a hearing before the body of the believers. That ain't our culture. Not the hearing.
Yes, sir.
Your hearing is before the laborers of the mosque. The execution of the law is before the body of the believers. But the hearing is before the laborers. And Malcolm X had his hearing on July 2nd, 1964. He was flown to Phoenix, Arizona, and his hearing was before the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Supreme Captain Raymond Sharif, and the National Secretary John Ali. And because the FBI had the Phoenix home and the Chicago home thoroughly bugged, the FBI were a fly on the wall of this hearing, and the proceedings of the hearing are available in the file. Now, this hearing, because of Malcolm's continued disobedience, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to Malcolm that he did not take his spanking well. That he did not handle his trial at all. And so on that day, Malcolm X's status transitioned from C time to what's called in the Nation of Islam F time. F time is excommunication from the community. For the given time, 90 days, a year, 5 years, for the Malcolm's case, indefinitely. For the given time, you're removed from the community. You can't come among us. And no believer in good standing can fraternize with you, can have any dealings with you other than a return of the greeting if I am, or if you are on F time for a year and I see you out. If you say, Assalamu alaikum, Brother Wesley, as a Muslim, I'm duty bound to return the greetings, wa alaikum salam. But as a member under this law, I am forbidden to say anything further. If I engage you in further conversation, if I'm caught fraternizing with a member in bad standing, then your 1 year F time becomes my 1 year F time.
Yes, sir.
Malcolm was strict on that day. He was removed from his post as national minister and as minister of Temple Number 7 in New York. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said he hated to see a man get up the ladder and fall backwards. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad did not enjoy doing this. This was his son.
Yes.
Not his flesh, but more than his other sons.
Yes, sir.
But Malcolm is busted because of his continued insubordination.
Yes, sir.
He's put out the community indefinitely. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, I want to see you be quiet. He let Malcolm know he can come back. I'm watching. I want to see if you can be quiet.
Yes, sir.
Now, Malcolm has known about the domestic life of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad for over a year. 1962, he encountered it himself. He encountered the wives of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He helped the Honorable Elijah Muhammad out in a situation dealing with his wives.
Yes, sir.
I said, oh, what you talking about there? You think I'm capping? Okay. Probably in the winter of 1962, Malcolm was at the home of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in Chicago. And while there, two of the messenger's wives came to the door, and they each had their baby by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They were angry. They were out making a public scene outside the door of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Malcolm didn't like that. He asked the messenger. The messenger wasn't countenancing them in their behavior. I'll get to that in a minute. Y'all want to get judgmental. Hold that thought for a minute.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Malcolm asked the messenger, because he didn't like see his messenger endured that. He said, dear Holy Apostle, will you permit me to go talk to them? The messenger said, okay, fine. Malcolm went to the door. He talked to the sisters. He said to the sisters, said, the messenger won't see you right now. But if you allow me to call a cab, put you in a cab and take you home, the messenger will talk to you later. Can you agree to that? They agreed and they left. This is 1962. Malcolm had intimate knowledge, firsthand knowledge of the domestic life, the ups and downs of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And all of us got ups and downs in our domestic life. Don't judge him. Who hasn't had a wife that was wilding in the public and you just walked off? It's better than putting hands on them. You causing a scene in the public? I'll walk off and leave you. Now, the messengers of God aren't free from the very mundane trials and travails of human relations. They got their problems with their wives like we do. We got so many problems with our one wife, or maybe you got 3 girlfriends and 4 girlfriends, and you got a boatload of problems. But the difference between you and the messenger, the difference between us and the messenger is that our homes ain't bugged. So our part of the domestic troubles ain't in no FBI record to be accessed by haters. What if how you responded to your wife when you felt she was wilding on you, or your girlfriend? Let me stay over here. What if how you responded to your woman when you thought she was out of pocket? What if we read that in the book?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that happened. So Malcolm had intimate knowledge of the domestic life of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad for a year before his hearing. January 2nd, 1964, where he's now removed. Now, this is what's important. Malcolm knows intimately his teacher has wives. Is Malcolm disillusioned? Is Malcolm hurt? Did Malcolm lose faith in the divinity of his teacher because of what he knows of his teacher taking wives? When he returned from Arizona, having been busted from his post, having been excommunicated indefinitely. So no time was put on it. The messenger said, I want to see if you can be quiet. So what was 90 days C time is now indefinite F time. I'll let you know when you can come back.
Yes, sir.
Malcolm deeply hurt. Malcolm spent all of January writing to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, begging for forgiveness, begging for readmittance. Brother Wesley, you lying. Okay. At least 2 of the letters, because he recorded the letters, he sent the Honorable Elijah Muhammad a physical copy and a tape record. At least 2 of those taped letters of pleading for forgiveness are available. He also, during that time of his great trial, took notes. And before he would compose his various letters to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he took notes, organizing his thoughts on what he would say to the messenger before he actually penned the letter. Those notes are available.
Yes, sir.
This is one of the letters he wrote to his teacher after being busted, knowing the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's domestic life very well. I want you to tell me if this sounds like a disillusioned man.
Yes, sir.
He wrote this letter sometime between, it's not dated, but we know by the contents, it's between January 2nd, the time of his hearing, and January 19th, the time he went to Miami to be with Cassius Clay as he was preparing for the fight with Sonny Liston. This is what he says in the letter. It says, quote, "One of the main reasons people want to divide you and me is because they know that Allah has blessed me to be your best representative as well as your best defender." No cap there. The only ones here who might think I'm against you are those who are not with you themselves. This is a dangerous position to be in because it only adds division upon division. I know how Isaac felt when Abraham took him upon the mountain to sacrifice him. See, Malcolm understood that those scriptural references were prophecy.
Yes, sir.
He knew who Abraham was, and he felt himself to be Abraham's son.
Yes, sir.
I know how Isaac felt when Abraham took him upon a mountain to sacrifice him.
Yes, sir.
Only love for his father made him submit to what looked like certain death. Abraham's faith in Allah was being tested, but Isaac's faith and obedience to Abraham was an integral part of the overall test.
Yes, sir.
I now know how Job felt when everyone was looking at him, wondering what sin he committed. His worst pain must have come from his inability to open his mouth and explain the real reason for his condition. As I've told you, I've been working on these notes I've taken during conversations with you during the past 10 years. Whenever I feel lonely, forsaken, or even angry, I go back to the words of wisdom and healing in these notes.
Yes, sir.
There is both hope and life in your words. With Allah's help and your permission, I can turn out a book about your life, your teachings, and your work, and the program that would bring tears to your eyes and would not only go a long way in waking up the dead nation,
Yes, sir.
but will also add to the financial needs of the nation. I do it just like I was working for you, but would actually ask nothing in return. I've received my pay from you already 1,000,000-fold. If you would have mercy on me and give me another chance, I'll stay out of the public. I'll be satisfied with just ministering in the mosque, making no public statements or outside speeches. Cassius Clay has offered me and my family a free expense-paid trip to Miami, Florida. I have taken my family nowhere during the entire 6 years. My wedding anniversary is January 19th, and I'm contemplating acceptance of this offer, which is a blessing, a honeymoon. Since I know what my status is, I will not go near the mosque there nor the Muslims. May Allah bless you with strength during the dark hours. Now know are also a trial for you. All praise is due to Allah.
Yeah.
Does this sound like a disillusioned man? Does this sound like a man whose faith in his teacher has been crushed over a personal matter? No, it does not, because it is not.
Right.
He continuously wrote, such letters. Malcolm X never wanted to be out of the Nation of Islam. It's an important point. Lesson 1. Malcolm X never wanted to be out of the Nation of Islam and away from his teacher. But of course, he did. How did that happen? Brother Wesley? So he spent January and February writing to his messenger, begging for mercy, pleading to be readmitted into the fold with him. For whatever reason, while doing this, Malcolm still had the 90 days on his mind, even though his status transitioned. And so, approaching March 4th, the time that his 90 days were to be up, he wrote the Honorable Elijah Muhammad asking about his status. On March 5th, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote him back. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told Malcolm that he was drunk over publicity and leadership. And that because Malcolm continued to disobey his orders, this is a detail, even if he started being quiet and was permitted back in the fold, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told Malcolm in that letter he would never give him Temple number 7 back again. Now, this is what triggered Malcolm. Malcolm coveted New York. New York was the big stage in America. And Malcolm was desirous of being, he was over Philly, DC, and a number of mosques, but he wanted New York. And when the minister of New York was busted in, Malcolm's opportunity came. He was very happy. Malcolm coveted the platform that New York was. So many of Malcolm's international connections before he went to Africa.
Yes.
He made them as a representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in New York, because everybody of power came through New York. And Malcolm met Castro in New York. He met all of those leaders in New York. He coveted New York. And so when he was at the March on Washington, what he called the Farce on Washington, he was there as an observer. FBI agents approached Malcolm. FBI agents had tried several times to make Malcolm the messenger's Judas, and he always rebuffed them. On this occasion, when they approached Malcolm and said, "No, Malcolm, what will it take? How many millions can we give you?" Malcolm said, "I don't want no millions." He said, "Give me New York." Now, of course, he was a minister in New York. He said, "Give me New York." Now, of course, it was tongue-in-cheek. Malcolm didn't wittingly work for the FBI, but that speaks to where Malcolm's heart was. Malcolm's heart was New York. So when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said he had no intention of giving number 7 back to Malcolm, quote, no matter what he did, the messenger said, because if I did so, you would set up a crew 100% for you, Malcolm, and not with the officials in Chicago. Malcolm received that letter telling him that he has a future in the nation, but he has no future. His reign in New York was over. He got that letter March 5th. On March 8th, Malcolm X got into his car and he drove to the home of M.S. Handler, the New York Times reporter.
Yes, sir.
And at the table with Handler and Handler's wife, Malcolm X told that white reporter that he is leaving the Nation of Islam. On March 8th, M.S. Handler printed the story in the New York Times. Malcolm X splits from the Nation of Islam. He would come to regret that, as I want to speed to y'all, okay?
Yes, sir.
You sure? He will express his regret, but he was triggered. He left not because of disillusionment over his teacher's righteousness. He made the decision to not bide his time, not wait it out. Because he was told his reign in New York was over. Okay. When he announced on May 8th that he was leaving the nation, he went out of his way to pledge loyalty to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Again, this whole narrative that Malcolm fell out with his teacher, that Malcolm could no longer follow Elijah Muhammad because what he knew. You can say, well, he told the line while he was in. Well, what reason did he have once he left the nation? When he declared his independence? Because in declaring his independence, he also declared that he remained a loyal follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. On May 11th, 1964, at a press conference, Malcolm read a telegram he sent to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Now, he announced that he's out of the nation. He announced that he's forming his own organization, Muslim Mosque Incorporated. But he's compelled to send this telegram to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and make it public. And what did the telegram say? Quote, the national officials there at Chicago headquarters know that I never left the Nation of Islam of my own free will. See, for Malcolm, the enemy was always the Chicago National Laborers. It wasn't the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Even though the letter was from the messenger, I'm not giving you back New York no matter what. But for Malcolm, it was the Chicago niggas. The national officials there at the Chicago headquarters know that I never left the Nation of Islam of my own free will. It was they who conspired with Captain Joseph here in New York to pressure me out of the Nation of Islam. He never wanted to be out of the Nation of Islam.
Yes, sir.
In order to save the national officials and Captain Joseph the disgrace of having to explain for forcing me out, I announced through the press that it was my own decision to leave. I do not take the blame to protect those national officials, but to preserve the faith your followers have in you, in the Nation of Islam. Despite what has been said by the press, I've never spoken one word of criticism to them about your family. Quote, I will always be a Muslim, teaching what you have taught me and giving you full credit for what I know and what I am. You are still my leader and teacher, wives and all. You are still my leader and teacher, even though those around you won't let me be one of your active followers or helpers. The present course I am taking is the only way I can circumvent their obstacles and still expedite your program. Malcolm remains a loyal follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I got to run through some things. I want to close this up, deal with the assassination, and land the plane. Malcolm X never wanted to leave the Nation of Islam. There were some genuine issues that he was confronted with. Yes, he was confronted with the jealousy and envy of some of his peers. Yes, he had some hurt, not about his messenger taking wives. He had some hurt about one or two of the selections. He did. Malcolm was angry and triggered by learning that he would not get New York back, and that anger caused him to make the move that he did. That was impulsive. And I said Malcolm regretted that later. And he did. Because the weeks leading up to his assassination, Malcolm was trying to get back in to the Nation of Islam.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. There was a hard summer. There was a hot summer. Things got hot in June in particular. But there were some altercations. There were some fisticuffs. No, the FOI wasn't running around seeking to assassinate Malcolm X. Absolutely not. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave everyone instructions, leave Malcolm alone.
Yes, sir.
But Wesley, what is there was all of this ruckus, all of these people getting beat up. Yeah, and those that did, they deserve to get beat up. What do you mean they deserve to get beat up? See, y'all only got one side.
Yes, sir. Come on. Yes, sir.
Malcolm ain't never get beat up. Muslims didn't try to kill Malcolm in Boston. That Callahan Tunnel incident, that Malcolm wasn't even there. Therefore, why I was chasing Benjamin Goodman, chasing him out of town. Yeah, we do that. You ain't bringing that here. We ain't gonna touch you. But when we do touch you, you deserve it. For example, a famous case, Ruby D's, Ruby D and Ozzie Davis, they were big supporters of Malcolm. And their relative, Tom Wallace, I believe it was. Hold on. Yeah. So this is a textbook example. It illustrates a lot of the acrimony during the hot summer of 64. Thomas X. Wallace, that was Ruby Dee's brother. He had joined the nation, but then left with Malcolm. On June 22nd, the hot summer of June, a young boy, one of Malcolm's people, full of the spirit of Malcolm, Brian Kinsley, he goes to the Mosque Number 7 restaurant in New York. Restaurant owned by Nation of Islam Assistant Minister Larry 4X Prescott, who will come to be known as Minister Akbar Muhammad. Minister Larry, he's in this restaurant minding his own good Muslim business. The young, fiery Brian Kinsley, Malcolm X follower, decides to go to the restaurant and hang out and then start talking a whole bunch of crap, yelling obscenities as patrons are coming in and out. So Minister Larry comes out and smacks the young boy. Well, he's grown, he's young in relation to Larry, but you come aggressing us. You obstructing business. You causing a problem. So Larry slapped him and chased him away. Ruby Dee's brother, Tom Wallace, angry at the incident, he decides to come back with a rifle. Now, the Nation of Islam, then and now, we are forbidden to carry weapons. In contrast, Malcolm's operation was a gun-toting operation. All of his men carried guns. So put that in context. So all of the altercations that did take place between FOI and Malcolm's men were altercations between unarmed FOI and armed OAAU. That's Malcolm's Organization of Afro-American Unity. His soldiers were armed, ours were not. So Tom Wallace, caping for the young Brian Kinsley, comes to the restaurant with his rifle and points it. Well, Akbar comes out because they know each other. Tom Wallace points the rifle at Minister Larry 4X. He didn't put no fear in Larry's heart. Minister Larry walks up to the barrel of the gun, knowing that that man ain't gonna shoot him. He snatched the gun, turned it around, and hit Tom Wallace in the face with the butt of the gun. Then he took the gun and smashed Tom Wallace's windows. Now, the false narrative, the Malcolm X false narrative, they record this incident, but look at how they record it. Carl Evans, one of the premier authors of this false narrative, and talking about this incident, he says, quote, Thomas X. Wallace, Ruby Dee's brother, who was viciously beaten after he quit the Harlem Mosque to follow Malcolm. So see, the impression given is that this brother was beaten by the Muslims because he left to follow Malcolm. No, he was beaten long after he left. He was beaten because he earned a butt whooping. Will you deny that we were in our right to deliver to him what we delivered to him? But such incidents, and we can multiply them, but they get recorded in the Malcolm X false narrative as FOI attempted to assassinate Malcolm X. Malcolm ain't nowhere around. So the summer is hot, June, but Malcolm leaves in July for his second leg of his tour in Africa. And while in Africa, we learn from Imam Muhammad Sadiq. Imam Muhammad Sadiq, formerly Brother Clark X. Moore, he was director of the Muhammad University of Islam when Minister Farrakhan was the minister there. He later went with Warthuddin Muhammad and became a Orthodox Muslim. He not with us, but he tells a very important fact that while Malcolm was in Africa during the second trip, Malcolm then began trying to find a way to come back to the Nation of Islam under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Malcolm was not comfortable in this new situation outside of the nation. And he was deliberately looking for a way to come back to the Nation of Islam. These deliberations of Malcolm began while he was in Africa. He done went through the hot summer. Yes. And he didn't like the circumstances. He probably figured, well, yeah, that was impulsive what I did on March 8th. And the reason for which I did it. So according to Imam Muhammad Sadiq, Malcolm began trying to figure out how to get back to the Nation of Islam. And Malcolm began reaching out to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, seeking a way back in. And this is why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad instructed the believers, leave Malcolm alone, because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that Malcolm was coming back to me on his knees. He would be a better help in the cause of Islam as a repentant Malcolm, not as a dead, martyred Malcolm. He didn't want Malcolm martyred. He wanted Malcolm repentant. And Malcolm was beginning to repent. He was trying to come back into the Nation of Islam. Outreach was made. Negotiations began. I'll get to that. Charles Kenyatta, Abdul Razak, these are Malcolm's chief lieutenants at the time of his death.
Yes, sir.
They weren't with us. They left with Malcolm. Both of them say, Abdul Rahman says, quote, to the day Malcolm was killed,
Yes, sir.
if Muhammad would have called him on the phone on that day, February 21st, 1965, if the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, if Mr. Muhammad would have called Malcolm on the phone, Malcolm would have gone back
Yes, sir.
to Mr. Muhammad. Charles 37X Kenyatta, also with Malcolm, but a rival of Abdul Razak, says the same thing, quote, Malcolm loved Elijah better than his own sons loved him. He never wanted to move away. Malcolm never wanted to move away. If Elijah had come up to him, Malcolm, 5 minutes before he got shot, Malcolm would have gone back to Elijah Muhammad. Malcolm, as he desperately wanted Mr. Muhammad's forgiveness and mercy after his hearing, he spent January and early February pleading for mercy and to be welcomed back. Circumstance led to what it led to, but after July, Malcolm is trying to swim back. Now the prodigal son is trying to return to the house of the father, as the Honorable Miss Louis Farrakhan said. And none of these men are with Farrakhan. He said most people don't know that Malcolm tried to get back into the Nation of Islam before he was assassinated. So why would he come back? If his faith was broken, why would you come back? It's because he realized that the nation made Malcolm, and Malcolm helped to make the Nation of Islam. So we have 4 witnesses. February 26, 1965, the New York Daily News gives details. Revealed Malcolm and Muhammad held peace talks. After his break with the Black Muslim movement, Malcolm X conferred secretly several times with Elijah Muhammad. But he and the Prophet, leader of the Muslims, could not agree on terms of his return to the parent organization. The news was told last night. The Prophet would accept Malcolm back only in a humble position, and the young Negro extremist refused to disband his own following. The New York Post revealed similarly, Malcolm himself initiated peace talks with Muslim chief Elijah Muhammad more than once in the 11 months between their split and Malcolm's death. It was learned Malcolm conferred secretly with the 67-year-old Muslim leader several times in Chicago. Muhammad reportedly offered to take Malcolm back into the Muslim fold in a subordinate position if he would disband his own movement. But the 30-year-old Negro leader would not accept either proposition. Malcolm, the record is clear. Malcolm never wanted to be away from this. He made a decision due to circumstances to leave, and he regretted that decision. And he tried before his death to swim 9,000 miles back home. So Malcolm X cannot be your excuse to stay away from the Nation of Islam. If you follow Malcolm X, follow him back to the Nation of Islam. There is much that could be said, but I'm going to land the plane on that note. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, sir. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.